Hey, John, how are you?
Good, how are you, Cheryl?
I'm awesome. I'm so glad to be here with you. I understand that you are actually new to the district at Hilliard, and I wondered if you could tell me a little bit about yourself, the journey that you took you to where you are right now, and maybe also a little bit about your philosophy around 21st century learning. I'm also very curious as a superintendent, do you see yourself as a connected educator? And in that journey description, if you'll just introduce yourself so people can get to know you.
Okay, John Marschhausen, superintendent here at the Hilliard City Schools. This is my third superintendency. Prior to coming to Hilliard, I was the superintendent of the Loveland City School District and the East Knox City School District, and I very much consider myself a connected educator. I think I am very fortunate to be one of the first digital natives. I don't remember a time when I didn't have technology, starting back with the TRS-80 as a upper elementary student, and then Apple IIe, Mac, PC have kind of always been cutting edge in how I was able to use technology. I was the first sixth grader turning in papers on my old dot matrix printer, and the first person kind of using spell check as a crutch because phonics didn't work for me. So I've been able to use technology throughout my journey to always be one of those people who is able. I always want the new thing. I've always used whatever I could use, and it's fun. I was one of the first people to use email. My parents are in Connecticut, and I hooked Dad up with email, and Dad and I started emailing back and forth together in the early to mid 1990s when it was the first thing to do. So I very much consider myself connected. And one of the things that really changed my journey and my path is I had started my PhD program at the University of Dayton when I took the job at East Knox. And I had the opportunity at that time to complete my PhD program through Capella University, which is an online university. And I really saw the power of getting away from all brick and mortar programs because I was able to interact with people from across the country rather than just my little cohort. And I was also able to tailor my educational activities to what I was doing at work, and it made it real. So no longer was I doing homework. Now I was doing projects that I was actually using as a superintendent. And that authentic learning experience and the connections I made through my PhD program were absolutely phenomenal. The chair of my PhD dissertation committee was the former state superintendent in the state of Minnesota. I wouldn't have had that kind of networking. Some of my classmates were in high-powered Atlanta suburbs and high-powered Chicago suburbs, and I wouldn't have made those connections if it was just the colleagues that I went through my other classes with. So being connected has been something that I've been able to experience. I was very fortunate several years ago to be appointed by Ohio's governor to the Ohio Digital Learning Task Force, where we actually adopted the definition of blended learning in the state of Ohio and really worked to promote that. And we're not anywhere near where we need to be in Ohio, but starting to get away from just the Carnegie unit seat time, doing everything the old-fashioned way, to really starting to push in Ohio the envelope of what it is we do in schools and how we do it. I'm really excited and proud to be here at Hilliard because I'm not afraid of competition, but I do think that when you look at what students get in terms of education, we have 100% online schools available in Ohio that people can go to as charter schools, but you can do that here in Hilliard because we can offer that and we can offer blended, and we've got all kinds of potential here. So yes, I'm a connected learner. I'm an eager learner, and I really love this space as a place that we can all get better.
How exciting. You know, what I love about what you've shared with me is the fact that you own this. You know, you've experienced it personally, you've seen the benefits, so you really see in your new role serving there at Hilliard, how this is going to impact. And let's talk a little bit about that. What I'm interested in is what are your tentative plans for leading your district into the 21st century? When you're thinking about, where you are now and where you're going, what do you see happening in terms of that shifting learning landscape and where you're going to take Hilliard on that journey?
Well, I think first of all, we need to embrace learning as a whole person. Too often we get caught up in just test results. We get caught up in state report cards. We get caught up in kind of the quantitative side of things.
Right.
And we need to create a culture as leaders that affords teachers the safety to experiment and encourage teachers to be the learners in their own learning spaces. And that's a challenge. And part of that just comes from our vision and our message. When our vision is we want to inspire kids, we want to embrace students, we want to look at each student as an individual, now we have to treat teachers that way. So we have to provide differentiated professional development. We have to provide differentiated opportunities for our own teachers. And when we do that as the leaders, they in turn will do that with their students. The other thing we have here in Hilliard, I think, is a one of a kind, and that's we have our Innovative Learning Center that just opened this year. And the Innovative Learning Center is a separate building where we have students from all three of our high schools and all three of our middle schools come for blended and innovative learning opportunities. And Hilliard has what I truly believe is an incubator for how we're going to move forward. This ILC, the Innovative Learning Center, is absolutely amazing, and it creates a limitless environment where there are no classrooms where there are desks and rows. There are creative learning spaces where students can go off and create their own learning experiences. And that comes from us, in some ways, as the educators, relinquishing some control to our students and empowering them to take control of what it is and how it is they learn. Too often schools have said, you have to learn how we teach you. And the shift needs to take place when we're going to teach you how you learn. And that means putting teachers in the right seats on the bus. That means empowering teachers to do what they do well. We have some teachers who are amazing lecturers. They should be lecturing. We have some teachers who are amazing small group, inspiring students in groups of 8 to 10. They should be working in small groups. We have some teachers who make amazing online lessons and can run a chat room and can run threaded discussions and can teach through blogs. We need to let them do that. And too often we want everyone to be the same. And I think the first thing in creating these connections between our own educators so they can share them with the students is empowering teachers to look at where they are in their professional development and encouraging them to do what they do well. Not everyone is going to be a blended teacher,
Right.
but we have people who would be great at it. And we have to encourage and empower them to do those things.
It's great. It's absolutely wonderful. Very exciting to hear you talk in those terms, especially that you're looking at the self-actualization of the teacher and really helping them improve developmentally. I'm curious, are you familiar with Connected Educator Month, and is your district going to be involved? And if so, how will you be encouraging people to take those informal kinds of activities that they do during the month of October and Connected Educator Month and maybe use that to inform practice or the things that are going on in the district?
Well, you actually gave us a huge jump start when you were in our district in early August for our Innovative Learning Environment Conference, because we have so many people who are now on Twitter, looking at blogs, being connected themselves.
Great.
And my biggest role now is to encourage that to continue. When we have our meetings and when we have our principals and administrative meetings, I'm requiring people to bring their devices because we're now having conversations in addition to the face-to-face, but using our different connected tools. And your idea of connection has actually taken off in our district because we now, my new blog as the new superintendent in Loveland is Get Connected. That's the name of the blog that I write once a week. I have started a series of coffee connections where I meet our community at Starbucks, at Panera, at Tim Hortons to get connected. So that word connected is our theme for this school year. And as we get to October, we will encourage our principals, and it starts with me. It starts with modeling and then having that connection go to our principals. And we have first grade classes that have invited me to their Twitter accounts. Hadn't happened before.
That's
But
great.
that's a result of us
That's
creating an environment where I don't think we can mandate, but we need to create the culture where it's accepted and create the culture where it's okay to do these things. And we're well on our way. And I think if you continue to follow all of the great things that happen here in the Hilliard City Schools, you'll start to see a greater and greater footprint in what we do in terms of spreading not only what we do through our connections, but being learners for what other people are doing with their connections.
That's great.
And that's where it really starts to take root, when we're doing something that's the first step and we're connecting with people who have done steps 2, 3, and 4, and we learn from what they've done. And we're a whole global learning community. It's no longer school districts competing, it's school districts working together and collaborating. And that's a shift that we all need to embrace.
That's incredible. So, thinking along those lines, I know when I was there, you had talked a little bit about creating an online community of practice. And a lot of the work that the United States Department of Education through the Connected Educator Initiative is doing is around helping teachers really understand how to do deep kinds of learning in online spaces. Is Hilliard still planning on moving in that direction? Or what kind of plans do you have for professional learning for your teachers to continue to support them in all these amazing things you've been sharing?
Well, what we want to do is take the work that you did this summer and make every professional development, every learning experience, no longer a single day, but continue those conversations by remaining connected, by continuing to challenge each other in our own learning space. Yes, we are working to develop our own network in our own space for our administrators and our teachers to live in this space where professional development and conversations and growth are ongoing, where it's no longer going to a conference. And, I used to say, if you take one thing from any conference and you can implement it, it was a successful conference. That's changing, because now if you can take several things from a conference and implement them and continue those conversations and continue that learning beyond that conference, now it's successful.
Wow.
And I think that you coming here was huge, because what we do as connected educators and connected learners, it starts sometimes with face-to-face. It starts with building relationships. But once you get those relationships, once you start to cultivate that, it continues so much faster and so much easier when you can use all of the tools and all of the different communications opportunities we have beyond just the conference. So we as educators need to look at what works well, how we can maximize our face-to-face time together to get that seed planted. And then how do we cultivate that as it continues to grow? And how do we nourish it as it continues to grow through opportunities of remaining connected with our peers and our folks in other places?
All right. I can't tell you how excited I am. I'm looking forward to interacting with your faculty and staff in Connected Educator Month. And I guess I'll see you online. Thanks so much for the interview today. I sure do appreciate it.
Thank you so much.